Hey guys, it's Alan, the Fireman 1028, and today coming to you with a 6-month, 1,000-mile review, however you want to look at it, of our 2024 Honda Transalp. We are at the Little Switzerland Inn in Little Switzerland, North Carolina, right at the top of Highway 226, also called the 226A, also called the Diamondback, a road that was kind of hit pretty hard and actually just kind of reopened from all the damage from October from Hurricane Helene. So we did a little video, and I'll put a couple clips of that in there, of just some of the damage that we've seen and just some of the areas that were completely washed out that they're redoing. But the purpose of this video today is we're going to be doing, like I said, a 6-month, 1,000-mile review of our 2024 Honda Transalp. So we're going to make this a 2-part video. Part 1 is going to be standing here. I'm going to kind of go over some of the specs of the bike, you know, all the you know, kind of the number warriors really love, and then the second half will be on the road on the Blue Ridge Parkway on 226A and 226 regular. I'll point out a couple landmarks to you that are you know, personally important to me. So like I said, so we'll go over some of the specs here, talk about the bike, look at the bike as we walk around it, and see what mods we've done, what mods we're going to do, what our plans are for the bike, and you know, just stuff like that. So let's get started. Before we get too far in, if you see anything that you like, please give me a thumbs up. That means a lot. It helps with the algorithms. Comment on the video if you you know, if you like the bike, you like what I'm saying. If you don't like what I'm saying, whatever else, give me a roll tide if anything. And for me, the ultimate compliment is to subscribe to the channel. So you know, our number counts are growing every single day. The more we get, the more things it allows us to do, and the more doors it opens up. So like I said, I would really greatly appreciate if you'd subscribe to the channel. So like I said, let's get started with the technical specs and kind of a walk around of the bike, and then we'll get on the road and kind of do more of a, this is the technical part, and then we'll do more of an emotional part once we get on the road. So let's get started. Thanks, guys. All right, so like I said, this is our 2024 Honda Transalp. The Transalp name is a, you know, very famous name with motorcycles. It's been around for a long time, and Honda brought it back a couple years ago in Europe, and then we finally got it in the States here in 2024. This bike here uses it's a 755cc parallel twin with a 270-degree crank, which if you watched my last video, I had an exhaust clip in there, and I might see if I can kind of add that clip right back into this one here. And this is honestly one of the best sounding bikes that I have ever, you know, been a part of with a stock exhaust system. Even though it's a parallel twin, it's really throaty. The 270-degree crank really gives it a nice, you know, really gives it a nice sound. It is an overhead cam, unicam, which is Honda's technology there. It does produce 83 horsepower. The bikes in Europe get 90.5. I don't know why we get less horsepower here than they do in Europe. I don't know if it's emissions or whatever else, or detuning. If you know, please put it in the comments here. It's a 4-valve per cylinder, 33.5 inlet valves, 29mm exhaust valves, if you're into that kind of stuff, you know. Bore and stroke is 87 millimeters by 63.5. With a compression ratio of 11.1. 11 to 1. That allows us to use 87 octane, you know, no issues there. You know, you can use the cheapest gas you can find, and she'll run like a champ. The suspension is a 43mm Showa front forks. It's the separate function forks, which means I swear they took something cheap and gave it a name and made it seem expensive. Separate function means you've got a fork or a spring in one side and you got valving in the other, and not in both. So I know there's companies out there, I think even Traction Dynamics, who I've bought some stuff from my Ninja 1000, which absolutely transformed that bike. I know they've got some components for this right here that would absolutely transform the handling of this bike here. You got a single rear shock, which is a Pro Link in the rear, which is also a Showa. You've got dual 310mm wave brakes in the front, and you got a single, you know, 256mm in the rear. Tires are 90 by 90 by 21, which is, you know, pretty standard size for a, you know, for adventure bike slash dual sport bike. So there's tons of options as far as tires go. The rear tire is a 150 by 70 by 18. So the 2118 is really kind of the, you know, you can always kind of tell what the purpose of a bike is by the size tires they put on it. So with a 21-inch front and 18-inch rear, that's telling you that that, you know, Honda meant for this bike to really do some off-road riding. The rake is 27 degrees. The trail is 111 millimeters, or 4.4 inches in freedom units. The bike is 33.1 inches wide, so it's a fairly narrow bike. And even with these crash guards on here, it's still fairly narrow. And the handlebars actually come about flush with the T-Rex Racing crash guards that we have on it. It's 57.2 inches tall to the absolute tallest point. The seat height is 33.7 inches, which is it's a little tall, but it's not terrible. It's not Tenere tall or anything like that. So it's a very manageable seat. I can't flat foot it completely, but I can get pretty close, which is just fine. Ground clearance is 8.3 inches. A lot of people give this bike a lot of crap for the ground clearance that it has, but honestly, if you go look at some other bikes like a BMW R1250, R1300 GS, it has the exact same ground clearance. Now, what this bike does need is it needs a skid plate desperately. And again, my friends at T-Rex Racing just got their Transalp skid plates back in stock. So I've got one of those on order, and we'll be putting that on pretty soon. I'm holding off on any off-road riding until I can get that skid plate in place, just simply because where the exhaust is and where the oil filter, and just too many vulnerable things down there to really attempt to go off-roading without that in place. The wheelbase is 61.5 inches. Fuel capacity is 4.5 gallons. I average about 45 to 50 miles per gallon, which is pretty par for this category, or just about any motorcycle really. And so that'll get you about 200 miles of range with a little bit of leftover. So, and I always say that 200 miles that's kind of the sweet spot for having for an adventure bike, is having at least a 200 mile range. So this bike does check that off. 459 pounds wet weight, so that's with gas and oil and all that jazz in it. So really not bad. I mean, anything under that 460 range is real manageable. I just did a comparison video with my KTM 390 Adventure, and that bike weighs about 387, I think, is what it weighed wet. And it was a pretty substantial difference just going the 70 pounds from this bike down to that bike, as to the difference in the weight and everything, and being able to move them around. So like I said, there's our stats right there. So again, really nothing crazy. We'll do a walk around. We'll do a walk around of the bike now and just kind of give you a look at it, what it looks like. So I've been fairly critical of this bike as far as the looks department, and for good reason. It's pretty bland looking. The front end really looks like a CB500X, which is, perfectly fine bike, but it just really doesn't wow. If we would have got the color scheme that they got in Europe and the rest of the world, the white with the gold rims, that really would have turned this bike into a head turner. But as it stands right now, it's one of those bikes you put it in a parking lot and you really don't even go back and look at it. It's just kind of meh, The additions that we put on the bike so far is we have T-Rex Racing upper crash guards here. We have, what else do we have? We have SW Motec GPS mount right here. We've got a quad lock foam mount right here. We have a Viridian cruise control system, which this is a full-on electronic cruise control system. It ties into the ride-by-wire system just like any factory cruise control system would. So it's really a neat system, and like I said, it operates just like any cruise control would. We had to go back and add the 12-volt outlet here, just simply because Honda was too damn cheap to give it to us from the factory. I got a video, and I can link it in here, doing a windshield comparison from the touring screen with a spoiler on it. And honestly, for warm weather, we're right back to the stock low screen. You can see definitely why the need for a skid plate here, with our exhaust kind of hanging down low and our sump right behind there, and then our oil filter. It's up a little bit higher, but still definitely something that's needed. It comes with a radiator guard, but it's plastic, so I do think our friends at T-Rex Racing have one there. The foot pegs, there's honestly nothing wrong with these foot pegs here. in their stock configuration for road riding, but anything off-road, you're definitely going to want something bigger. These do have these rubber pads that you can pull out to give you a little bit of serration there, but they're still not nearly big enough. But our friends at Pivot Peg have taken care of that. We still have the stock tires on there, which are the Metzler Torrance tires. I do have plans, and actually I already have all the stuff for a full luggage system. And actually, we're going to do multiple luggage systems. We're going to do one with the kind of an on-road touring setup, and then one with for, say, like a BDR setup. So honestly, that's really it on the bike as it stands now. So let's hop on it. Let's go ride, and let's just talk about some of the more objective items, and talk about what we like and what we don't like about the bike. See you on the road. All right, guys, so let's hop on our Honda Transalp. Let's go for a ride. Really not sure what roads we're going to be able to hit, because not sure what's closed or not. Let's take one more look at the view from the Little Switzerland Inn. And as you can see from the inn itself, it's beautiful. It almost looks like it's from another time. So I definitely recommend the Little Switzerland Inn. And right down the street is the Little Switzerland Cafe, and I highly recommend that. Had the smoked salmon BLT, and it was absolutely fantastic. So let's put on our gloves, excuse me, and let's go for a ride. And we'll talk about the 2024 Honda Transalp. Love that sound. Love that sound. So the TFT, having a TFT is not anything special these days, and it's pretty standard to have a TFT. And have one that's configurable like this one here. It's kind of a cool thing to have that. So what's really cool is that when you come off the Blue Ridge Parkway, now the Blue Ridge Parkway is closed anything past that direction there. So that's it. You can't go any further. You can turn around and go back the other direction, which really doesn't take you that far. And so there's about a 6 or 8 mile section that is open. And but that's it. And that's so what we're going to do is we're going to make a loop here. We're going to make a loop. We're going to go down here to the Little Switzerland Cafe. We're going to take Highway 226A down the road. There's their smokehouse right here on the back of the building. They smoke all their own meats and everything else, and it's fantastic. My wife's grandparents actually had a business up here for years. See, there's a big snake on the road there. They call this road the Diamondback. And again, it is one of the more famous roads in the state. Not as famous as like the Tail of the Dragon or the Devil's Whip or any of those roads, but it's still a really cool road. This area got devastated, and I'll show you some of the damage as we go down the road here. I know there's some DO2 crews working, so I want to ride pretty safe and make sure I give those guys plenty of room to do their job. A bunch of landslides, and any place you see a bunch of new asphalt, it was somewhere that the whole road washed away. So while we're riding, let's talk about the looks. Let's talk about the looks of the 2024 Honda Transalp. And again, like I said earlier, I've been really critical about the looks of the bike. I think it's just bland, especially compared to some of the other bikes in the segment. Touareg 660, even the Tenere, honestly, is a lot better looking than what this bike is here. But I would definitely take the reliability of this bike over something like the Touareg, and take a little bit of a bland looking bike just to have that sort of reliability. So here's the Alpine Inn. And half of their building washed away right here. I mean, this whole section washed away from this landslide right there. The looks of the bike, like I said, the 21-inch front, 18-inch rear, that definitely looks good. That really kind of tells you, what a bike is what they're aiming for with the bike when they put wheels like that on there. If it was 17s, like say a Versus 1000 or even a Versus 650, that tells you it's a road bike. But when they put 21s and 18s on there, does it handle as well as something with a 17? No, but it's definitely a lot more conducive to off-road riding with that 21-inch front tire. This curve right here in particular, I'm gonna try to turn and point up this hill right here. This one was bad. You can see just where the water came rushing down and just took everything out. And there's another one right down here. It's kind of the same thing. You can see all the debris that just come washing down. Check this out right here. As a matter of fact, I'm going to stop right here, see if I can get off the bike. I'll be back with you guys in a minute. All right, guys, so we stopped on the side of the road just because this was so dramatic. I don't know if you can see all the way up to the top of that mountain there, but what was just a gentle brook coming down there turned into an absolutely torrential downpour that completely scoured both sides of the creek there, created all this debris here. And once this truck passes, there's another landslide there, washed all this earth down. Surprisingly, it did not actually wash the road out here like it did in a lot of sections, but you can see down on this other side it did completely wash this all the way. So this is all new material here, and you can see the path of destruction that it created going down that valley right there. What you look at it now, it's just this gentle brook, and it was an absolutely horrendous river coming through here that just stripped everything bare in its path. All right, sorry, like I said, let's hop back on the bike. Let's take a look at it. Let's look at the bike while we're out here with this backdrop here. Like I said, it's a really good looking bike. Again, the 21-inch front wheel, the 18-inch rear, it really kind of gives it a good stance. I really wish we could have got the white version like they had in Europe, but it is what it is. All right, let's. I forgot the center stand. We do have a center stand. So let's put our gloves back on. Let's keep on riding. I do appreciate the weight of the bike. 450 pounds is really not that bad. Hot, so I need some airflow. I think I might have told the story before. I had a 2014 BMW R1200 GS Adventure, and cool bike. Bought it from a gentleman up in Decatur, Illinois. My son and I took a Labor Day weekend trip a couple years ago and picked it up. Had a chance to go to the Air Force Museum in Dayton, Ohio. It was really cool. But I don't remember what I was talking about now. Let's see, this whole area got washed out as well. So the BMW GS, which was a cool bike, but that thing was so damn heavy. So I remember one time my wife and I, we took it. I told her, I said, we live just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, and there's a Buc-ee's in Florence, South Carolina, which was about 2 hours away. I said, come on. I said, throw your jacket on, throw your helmet and gloves, and let's go get lunch. And she's like, well, where are we going for lunch? And I said, we'll figure it out. So we ended up down at Buc-ee's in Florence, and we pulled up, and a GS Adventure has 8 gallons of fuel. I mean, it holds a lot of gas. There's a whole other section that washed out right here. And so we pulled up, and we're basically empty. So we go inside, we fill our bellies up, and then we fill the bike up, and she's already sitting on the bike, which might have been a mistake. And I go to lift it off the side stand, which it sat pretty low, the side stand did. And I picked it up, and it just about kept on going and went over the other side. Because, 8 gallons of fuel, plus my little, wife was 130, 140 pounds, I don't know. And that was a lot of, and plus the weight of the bike and everything, and I just about dropped the damn thing with her on it. And I decided then I was kind of done with heavy bikes. You know, it's just, you know, that's okay for some people, but not me, man. That's too damn heavy. So again, we're on 226A here. I see some traffic up ahead, so we're going to have to slow down here shortly. But unless they'll let us go by. So let's talk about the comfort of the 2024 Honda Transalp. This is a very comfortable bike. You know, I kind of pride myself on being an expert on the comforts of bikes because back a couple years ago I did I still am a member of the Iron Butt Association, and I did it was a coast to coast to coast. Let me give them a little honk. Coast to coast to coast in under 100 hours. So that's 4,800 and something miles, and I did it in 98 hours and 10 minutes. And I did that on a 2013 Yamaha FJR 1300, which is an awesome bike. But even that bike, which is designed for that, I spent months getting the comfort just right, because I mean, like, if you're going to spend that much time on a bike, you got to have it right. So, is this bike iron butt ready? Yeah, iron butt, yeah. Coast to coast to coast? No. The seat's good for a couple hours. It does have a little slope forward. And I guess when you're doing riding like this, you really need to be hugging the tank anyway. But it does slope you a little bit forward, which puts a little bit of pressure. But the stock seat, it's good for, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 hours, a couple hundred miles of riding. After that, it would probably start to get uncomfortable, and start to get some hot spots on your butt. But for what it is, it's just fine. The seating position is perfect. I'm always real funny about just having good seating position on a bike. Now, I think they had to do some work on it because if you look at the stock risers down here, I mean, they're huge. They're huge risers. Oh, look, we got a new subscriber. If you look at those risers, they're huge. But I think Honda did that on purpose to really make it a very comfortable bike. So the position of the bars is perfect. The width of the bars is, I wouldn't change a thing there. This whole section washed off right here. Look at this. Wouldn't change a thing as far as the width of the bars. It's a good, perfect reach. The levers are in the right place. The foot position is perfect. It's directly underneath of you, maybe just slightly forward, but a great position for off-road riding. Again, the stock pegs they're serrated with a rubber insert, but I think we're definitely going to replace those with some. Actually, I know we're going to replace those. This whole section right here washed out. You can see with the whole roadside. I mean, the whole just slid down the hill right there. God, I don't keep getting distracted. I've got a set of pivot pegs. The awesome folks, Ruben over at Pivot Pegs, has been my contact and has been absolutely fantastic. And I will forever be a fan of Pivot Pegs because they were the first ones when I started reaching out to companies to work with. They were the first ones to say absolutely. And there's an old story about Shaquille O'Neal and the General insurance company. Back when he first got his license, he had this old Jeep Cherokee, and it was a piece of crap. But no one wanted to give this kid an insurance policy. And it wasn't on his dad's policy. His dad said, if you're gonna buy the car, you're gonna go get the insurance on your own. So no one wanted to give this kid insurance, and then he went to this little company called the General, or whatever it was called then, and they said absolutely. They gave him a policy, didn't charge him an arm and a leg for it. And it's one of those, he said he was kind of forever grateful to the General for that. So that's why he's continued to do advertising for them to this day. And that's how I view Pivot Pegs. They've been fantastic, easy to work with. I contacted them about the Transalp, and then they sent me pegs for the 390 Adventure, which again I haven't put those on either. But they make I would say they make the best pegs in the business. And they're called pivot pegs because they have a second axis to them, and they do pivot back and forth a little bit. So when you're standing up off-road riding, they can move with you a little bit as opposed to staying in that one fixed position. And they do have inserts in them as well for if you're just doing road riding, you just want the larger foot position. You can put the rubber insert in and have the the vibration dampening benefits of what the stock ones do. So the comfort of the bike, I mean, like I said, I'd be hard pressed, especially for the price point of this bike here. I'd be hard pressed to find a more comfortable bike than this is straight out of the box. So comfort, I give it a 10 out of 10. Oh, we're numbering things, so let's go back to looks. Looks, 6.5. Comfort, 10 out of 10. All right, so let's talk about power. Again, we mentioned before it's a 755 cc parallel twin. They call it a 750 because 750's got a real long heritage with Honda all the way back to the original CB 750 4-cylinder bike, and even through to the Nighthawks, which was a CB 750. And I personally, that was actually my very first bike that I flipped. See, look at the damage here. That was actually the very first bike I flipped, was a CB 750. And 2001, so it was one of the last Nighthawks. And I had first started riding, and that bike scared me. Honestly, the amount of power that bike had, it absolutely terrified me. Once you really rang it out, but maybe you really have an appreciation for Hondas and their 750s. But this here being a parallel twin, which typically they're pretty boring, but the 270-degree crank really, really livens up the bike and really gives it a really good sound and characteristic, and the the bore and stroke and the compression really make it a very torquey motor that you can, from low revs all the way up to the high, you can really kind of rail on this thing. It responds very well. So I'll give it a little bit of gas here. So again, we got 83 horsepower here in the States, and everywhere else they get 90 or 90.5. So again, I've yet to figure that out. If you know, please put that in the comments and explain to me why did Honda short us on that. So power-wise, like I said, is it the most powerful bike in the segment? No. Is it the best engine in the segment? I'd also say no. I think the CP2 engine in the Yamaha Tenere, or even the parallel twin and the Touareg, are probably, let's definitely say the Yamaha would be a better engine than what this is. But this is a damn good engine too. Look at the damage over there. That is incredible. I mean, it looks like an absolute microburst came through here and just snapped trees left and right. DOT is still doing a bunch of work down here. Anywhere there's a bend in the road, you can just see the amount of damage that it caused. It's pretty dramatic. What are we doing, fellers? Can I get by? Nope, I guess I can't. So the absolute amount of damage it caused was absolutely incredible. What are we talking about? We're talking about comfort. Comfort of the bike, I give it an absolute 10 out of 10. Power, let's give it a 7 out of 10. So let's talk about just some of the general features of the bike. So we've already mentioned 83 horsepower, 459 pounds wet, which I think is a really good combination. I used the term unicorn in my last video, but it's not a unicorn. People call things unicorns because it doesn't exist. And so the unicorn being the perfect bike. There is no such thing as a perfect bike. But are there bikes that compromise fewer things than others? Yes. And I would definitely put this bike in that category of bikes that really they don't compromise too many things. So again, 83 horsepower, 459 pounds.
That's a really good combination. The bike comes with some decent standard features. The up and down cruise control, the up and down quick shifter being a primary one, that was optional overseas. So they get the good color scheme, and we get the quick shifter. So go figure there. But 4.5 gallon tank, which gives you a really good range. Honda did short us on a couple things as far as like the just some cheap things. The suspension's pretty basic and pretty divey. I mean, like I'll stab on it here. This thing dives. I mean, it really dives. The traction control system's pretty rudimentary, very basic. And actually, I found myself locking up the tire a couple times already, so which is not great. So, 12-volt outlet. They didn't give us that. We had to buy that ourselves, which is wild. And take the dash apart and literally take the damn display off, and just to wire in a damn 12-volt outlet, which is just beyond me. The bike comes with really good mirrors. They're very stable. They kind of have this offset design to them. They're not straight up stalks. They kind of they tilt forward and then they bend back, which gives a really good view. They're very stable. They don't vibrate at all. So let's talk about the competition. What are what bikes are the competition for the Transalp 750? So honestly, you could really start inside Honda's own family. The CRF 300L Rally is really, I wouldn't call that competition for this bike. It's really two completely different areas. Even though price-wise, they're actually not that far apart. This bike being, roughly $10,000, and that one being about $6,000 to $7,000. That's not too far off for the jump in what you get with this bike. But just inside Honda's family, I mean, you really could look at the Africa Twin as competition, and maybe that's why Honda did not give this bike cruise control, because it would have been too close of competition for their flagship adventure bike, which I think is always kind of a cheap thing to do. General Motors was always bad about that. That they would de-content some of the Chevy products to make their Buick and GMC products look better. But I get it. It's under the corporate umbrella, and there's probably more profit margin on an Africa Twin than there is a Transalp, so they want people to buy it. So I get that. So that's probably why we didn't get cruise control, even though, like I said, Viridian solved that pretty easy, and had the system out really early on. So which means it was a pretty simple system to add cruise control, and it works just like a stock cruise control would. So let's look outside the Honda family. Let's look at Suzuki, the V-Strom, the new V-Strom 800, the new parallel twin V-Strom. That's probably the most direct competition to this bike. In the Japanese Big Three, or four, depends on how you look at it. And so probably the most direct competitor to that. Navigate some turns here. Obviously the Yamaha Tenere 700. With the Tenere being the more kind of off-road focused bike, it's a very uncomfortable bike to ride, and the V-Strom definitely being a lot more comfortable to bike. And I feel this bike kind of splits the difference into two, between comfort and off-road ability. So you look at it there, the Touareg 660, it's a little bit smaller of a bike, but it definitely, horsepower wise and content wise, really matches up pretty well. The hell was that? Matches up pretty well with this bike. So this is some of the famed roads here on this side of the non-Tail of the Dragon roads. This is one of the more famous ones. Inside the, so you can't forget about inside the Honda family. We forgot about one was the NC750X. And even though they are the same displacement, they're both parallel twins. They're not the same parallel twin, and they act completely different. So the NC750X is that engine is a parallel twin that is half of a Honda Fit or Honda Jazz engine. And it's an undersquare design. Actually, this house right here actually was my wife's grandparents' house for probably 20 years. I remember coming up here around the year 1999, 98, 97, somewhere in the ballpark, and they still lived here. And they had a little general store right up the hill here. And they walked. They had a little pig path right over here. And there's a little general store right up here. That they got robbed one day. Mimi is what I called her. This little building up here, that was her general store. So she was working the front, and these two gentlemen walk in. This might have been, I don't know, early mid 80s, and distracted her, had her go look for something in the back, and then the other guy came in and robbed the place. And then I remember her telling me that about 10 years, 15 years later, she got a call from one of the guys who called her. He got out of jail, and he wanted to apologize for what he had done. So that was kind of cool. Anyway, so we're talking about the NC750X. So, like I said, that engine is a very undersquared design, which lends itself to more torque than horsepower, and is a really cool bike. It's by itself. I haven't had an NC750, but I had an NC700X with a DCT, and that was a really cool. I don't know what that is in front of us. That was a really cool bike, and but a very boring. That is a big truck. I don't know what that guy is. I'd hate to see him go through that tunnel. And look at KTM. I mean, KTM's got the 790 Adventure and the 890 Adventure. The 790 was the original, and then they he's moving though. They actually discontinued the 790 in favor of the 890, and then they just recently brought back the 790 as a cheaper alternative to the 890, which actually is made by CF Moto in China. So, but if I had to choose, I mean, for me, it's not competition. It may be because of displacement and everything, but there's no way. After owning an 890 Adventure, there's no way I would go back to owning one and away from a Honda or a Japanese bike with the known reliability that you'll get from one of these. Triumph's new, or not new anymore, but Triumph's 660 Tiger is actually a really good competitor for this bike, even though displacement-wise it really doesn't match up. Horsepower-wise, just like the Touareg, it's right kind of in the same wheelhouse as what the Transalp is. So the 660 is actually a pretty good competition for this. So technology. Let's talk about the technology that's in this bike. Like I said, you've got a really good TFT display. It's very configurable. I'm just not going to do it driving down the road here, but it is very configurable and really easy to look at. The contrast is really nice. You can have the white background or the black background. I just happen to like the black myself. It does have, it's not, they don't come standard, but it does have the factory Honda heated grips, which you have a function button right here, and one pushes the button, you can set that as your favorites. Turn your function button on and then tab up, and there's your heated grips right there, and they get hot. Let's turn those back off. We don't need those today. So you'll have the heated grips. We have a 12-volt outlet in the front, which again, Honda didn't give us that. We had to buy that damn thing on our own. You've got rider modes. You've got the traction control. You've got the cornering ABS. Honda has been, even though I haven't really experienced it much myself, the traction control system that's on this bike is fairly rudimentary, and is very invasive, not very smooth and seamless like a lot of the newer systems. There's a nice view over there. Honda does give us a up and down quick shifter from the factory. It's not perfect. The downshifts are fine. Let's downshift here. The downshifts are fine. The upshifts seem like they have a little delay to them, so let's do an upshift. It seems like the upshifts, like they just have a delay to them, and it just something doesn't feel right. Like it's off by half a second. This tunnel gets dark. Cold too. What a beautiful tunnel though. This is the Little Switzerland tunnel. And like I said, it just, the upshifts feel like they have a bit of hesitation to them, and it's not perfect. We have a LED headlight, which I'll link a video in here of our LED headlight, riding to the gym, and it's really kind of an unimpressive light to be an LED. It really kind of lacks something. It doesn't have great broadcast. It's just kind of a meh headlight as well. And we just made a giant loop. We're right back over here at the Little Switzerland Inn, or just the Switzerland Inn, not the Little Switzerland Inn. So let's talk about a couple things that we don't like about the bike. We just did a 5 things we love and 5 things we don't love about the bike, and again, we're just making a big old loop here. If this looks familiar to you. Air filter access. With the air filter being underneath the tank, the access to the air filter is not the greatest. It's not impossible to get to, but it's fairly inconvenient to be able to get to it. The traction control and the ABS does not hold your settings when you shut the bike off. So if you are riding off-road and you've got your traction control configured how you want it, and your ABS, as soon as you turn the bike off and turn it back on, it loses all those settings. So before you take off, don't do like I did on the my CRF 300L Rally, which did the same thing, and left the ABS on and just about threw me off a hill because ABS was kicking in and I was trying to slide the back in. Another thing we don't like about the bike is the low exhaust. The exhaust. Some of the items of the bike really kind of tell you that it's meant for highway riding, and other parts are telling you that it's made for off-road riding. The 2118 is like, yeah, we're gonna go off-road, and then they give you a real low slung exhaust, which does not do very well off-road. There are a couple companies that make a high exhaust on there. The lack of a skid plate, them not giving us a skid plate from the factory, and charging the factory, the OEM skid plate that you can get, the Honda accessory, is bloody expensive. I mean, that thing's like $500 or $600 for a factory skid plate, and you can go on T-Rex Racing and get their skid plate for $220, and it's probably actually a thicker material and made in the USA. So little niggles like that, it just kind of has you it makes you scratch your head a little bit and figure out, makes you wonder why they did the things that they did. Like I said, the downshifter, the auto blipper works great. Upshifter, not so much. The suspension on this bike is definitely budget. It's perfectly fine, and probably 10-15 years ago this would have been top-notch suspension. But in today's world, it's fairly budget. But like I said, I know Traction Dynamics out of Atlanta has got a really good setup with their internals that would really transform this bike. So we talked earlier about what mods we've done to the bike. Let's talk about what our future plans are for the bike. We actually already have two different luggage setups for the bike. We're going to do a hard or semi-rigid luggage setup from SW Motec. Their Dusk system, D-U-S-C system. We're going to install that. I've already got that, which is a really nice and expensive set of luggage. So we're going to install that here probably the next couple weeks. Now that you know both of our degree programs are done, we'll be installing that here pretty soon. And then we have a soft bag luggage. We actually have a couple different options. We actually might have 3 different luggage options. We'll have a rackless luggage system, probably something from Tusk. And then we'll have a soft bag setup, like a Sierra, what's the company I'm thinking of? The Dry Spec. A soft luggage setup, waterproof soft luggage setup. And just show the versatility of going from a touring bike to something that's doing a BDR or a tap or something like that. So we got luggage set up, skid plate's already on order from T-Rex Racing. And like I said, I really want to do some off-road riding on this bike, but I'm not even going to think about it until I get that skid plate in place. Tires, it really depends on what you want to do with this bike. A perfect world, I'd have 2 sets of wheels, one with a set of road tires and one with a set of off-road tires. But finding something that's a good balance, like a TKC 80 or even these Metzeler Torrents, it'll do a little bit of off-road, but really nothing crazy. So maybe something like that, or even I know Dork on the Road did Ben with Dork on the Road did a set of Tusk D-Sport Adventure tires, and actually had pretty good success with them. They wore pretty quick, and I imagine they wouldn't be very confidence inspiring on something like this. Let's test out that downshift here. Not bad. Hand guards, we've got a set of Honda hand guards. They are plastic, but they're really rigid plastic. We really didn't want to put a set of metal hand guards on this bike for whatever reason. So I do have a set of Honda hand guards that we'll be installing, and we'll do a installation video on those. That got squirrely. Did y'all feel that? That rear end got awfully squirrely on that turn there. It was sliding around. Felt like Josh Herron on that one. Here's another big area that really got washed out. I mean, it just created a channel. All right, guys, let's take one more look at the Honda Transalp 750 2024. Of course, 2025 is the same thing. That rear end got awfully skittish on me. So like I said, it is a great bike. It's a great middle of the road bike. It's an absolute bargain for what you're getting with the bike. Did Honda cut some corners on us? Absolutely. With the 12-volt outlet, not giving us cruise control, not giving us a decent suspension. But those are all items that can all be addressed in the aftermarket. So overall, it's a great bike. I'm really enjoying riding it. Can't wait to take it off road. Maybe not with these tires. These tires are especially down like at the Henry State Park. Gravel roads, they'll do just fine. So again, guys, thank you for watching. I really enjoy making this kind of content. I've been planning these things for weeks and just wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and just, I want to write about this. And hello, Butterfly. Thank you, guys. If you see anything that you like, give me a thumbs up, comment, subscribe to the channel. That truly, I wake up in the morning and look at that, and it just makes me feel so good, and it's just encouragement to keep making good content. I know this video was long, but we covered a lot of things on this bike. Kind of covered it front to back, top to bottom. Thank you, guys. God bless. Roll Tide, and remember, tomorrow needs you. Thank you, guys.